So you spend all the time to get all your employees to fill out those engagement surveys, to get them all together, and now you have your results. And many times, sadly, we are so burnt out at this point in the process that we just need to get back to doing all of our other work, and we miss the real opportunity to get the most out of our engagement survey results. So let's figure out how to do just that. So let's look at how we can get the most out of your engagement surveys. The first thing that I want to talk about is what not to do, many of the mistakes that many organizations make. I want to talk about how you can quickly analyze your results, and then what to do with the results when you've got them to make the biggest impact, and also encourage your people to keep on filling out these surveys in the future. Hi, I'm Littlefield, and I've spent the better part of 15 years helping leaders at organizations figure out what they need to do to increase engagement and retention in their organizations. And as part of that process, I run a lot of engagement surveys. I've administered ones myself, and I've also been a part of several best place to work studies, both in the advertising industry and in other industries as well. And so I've seen what works and what doesn't work. Now, here's the thing. One of the first things we need to do is we need to analyze the results. Now, if you used an external provider to do your survey, then they're probably giving you reports and data and all the rest, and they're probably going to have a meeting with you to help identify some of the patterns they see. But you also want to look at those results as well. Now, here's the great news. In the past, it would have taken hours and days to be able to analyze those results, but we're in the age of AI. Every open-ended response that may have, 20 to 2,000 responses or 200,000 responses, you can now copy all that data, drop it into AI, and say, give me analysis of the 5 key themes inside of this, and 3 to 5 examples of each one of the responses under each one of those themes. And you're going to be able to see patterns right there. And it's going to help you identify what are some of those patterns from your open-ended responses. Now, if you have data from previous years, of course, you're going to want to compare it against that data. But once you start to get this information together, here's where we want to start working on communicating that out to our people. Now, while you're doing that analysis, one of the first things you want to do is you want to acknowledge what happened. And what I mean by acknowledging is we want to acknowledge our employees for participating in the survey. Now, if you already have a high-level report, you want to start to share those results out with your people. Now, many senior managers go, we don't want to share this with our people. But one of the ways that we establish trust with our people is through transparency. And so you can share those results. I actually worked with a company called 10 Feet, I think I'm pronouncing it right, out in Dubai. And they had a great thing that they did. When they got their survey results, what they did is they did an initial assessment of those survey results, and then they made a poster that they put up around their call centers and their offices sharing, here's what we saw in our survey results. They showed the things that were getting better and the areas of frustration. And the coolest thing that they did is at the bottom, they shared, here are some of the 3 things that you said you wanted most, and here's one action that we're going to take on each. And this one, which is a bigger one, we're not quite sure what to do, so we're going to get back to you about it. But what they did is they communicated to the people who took the survey to acknowledge, hey, I received your input, it's heard, we've seen it, and here are the actions that we're going to take, and here's where you can expect to hear from us next. Now, another mistake that many HR leaders make, or whoever's running the engagement survey, is they try to take the whole report and be able to share it with senior leaders. And many times they make senior leaders' jobs harder because they don't really understand what it means. And so what you want to think about is, what is the most important information to share with each group of people? You want to think of your high-level report for your senior leaders. Then you want to think about your high-level and departmental reports for managers, and then also what you want to share with individual contributors and what you want to do with it. Now, for your high-level senior managers, you want to let them know how things are going within the organization. What went up, what went down, and then you want to share how that data and information you're sharing impacts what's most important and vital to them. Now, for your senior leaders, that's going to probably be business goals, productivity, where their investments are going. Are they getting the most out of their people to help them move towards the goals that matter? But you want to put that high-level report together. Now, here's another tip back to AI. Once you get those results, you can also drop them in and say, hey, what are the 3 most important points you think would be relevant to senior leaders who tend to care about X? And then put those 3 things that your senior leaders say over and over and over again. Some people like efficiency, productivity, retention, culture, whatever it is, but use AI to help tease out those themes that you think are going to matter most to your senior leaders. And then put it into a one-pager, a one-page document that they can share, and what you need from them to follow up and take action on this. One caveat I want to share. Many times, senior leaders will have feelings about the results, and you'll have the data. And so many conversations I have with senior leaders where I share the results, well, this is because of this, and this is because of that, and that's because of this. And that's where you want to go, well, here's what the data's saying. And although you think it's just because of this, or people just want pay, or that, here's what the data is showing us, and here's what our people are saying. So what questions do you have? And then help bring out some examples that demonstrate that. But if you get the pushback, share, hey, you may feel this way, but here's what our people actually said. You have a piece of gold in your hands that can help that manager grow and develop. And you have a piece of gold that's going to help you justify some of the expenses and some of the things that you know are most important for your leaders. Now, what do I mean by that? For your managers, if their department has over 10 people, and I feel like if it's under 10 people, you can't really give the individual responses because they can go back and there's retribution if there's, negative things in there. But what you want to do is show the manager, hey, here's where your department's at right now. And ask them to reflect on what do you think's working that helped you move those scores up if they went up, and if it went down, what do you think's doing that? If there's open-ended responses and feedback, try to tease out that feedback. If the manager has lower scores in their department, then show them some of the departments that have higher scores and say, hey, here's some of the feedback that they got from their people, and use that as a way to say, here are some small things you can do. So if you can, use AI again to create a report for this specific manager, and then offer 5 recommendations of things that they could do to be able to move those scores up. And you'd be amazed at some of the examples. Of course, read the examples afterwards because sometimes there's some pretty bad ones. It's still AI, okay? But use that to be able to help you out. And then, by the way, once you've done one of those reports, you're going to start to get a bunch of them. Now, for the individual contributors within our organization, it's important to show them the results because you want to celebrate together. I think a key moment that many people miss when it comes to engagement surveys or staff surveys in general is they forget to celebrate the progress. I can't tell you how many times engagement surveys come back and recognition is low, so they reach out to me for a recognition speaker to be able to address the recognition problem. And feel free to reach out to me if you do have that problem. But what they forget to do is actually realize we went up by 3. And last year was a down economy, and all of these things were going on. So we forget that we want to celebrate the progress. Hey, our numbers went up this year. We did better here. Employees said that they felt more connected to the mission. And you want to start first by celebrating the progress and the wins, given everything you faced, before you jumped into analyzing the gap and how you can go up. And then the other part too, if you're over 70% on most of your scores, that's a win. And if you're down in the red, make sure you dig in first to the things that are working and emphasize what's working already before you get hyper-focused on, we only have 50% in this area here, we need to focus all of our efforts here. Because many times what you focus on, you get more of. And so why not focus on the things that are working to build out on what's working there and then figure out what's missing in those areas specifically. How do we start to do that? Now, you have all these survey results, you've given reports out to the managers, and by the way, find the simplest way to do it. 1-pagers for each managers, or even just sit down with them, pull it up on your screen if it's on your computer and go over it and then give them a screenshot of it. Make your job easier, don't overcomplicate it, but get them the data as soon as possible, okay? Now, we want to dig deeper. And what do I mean by digging deeper? If you get a response like, let's just say, employees don't feel recognized. And by the way, don't use that question on your survey because, like I've shared in other videos, if you've watched any of them, feeling recognized is a different experience. And many times when people are answering the question, do you feel recognized? For some people, it means that they've gotten paid, or some people it means they've gotten a promotion, or some people it means that my boss or manager has complimented me. And so it's really subjective to that individual. So what we want to do is ask, do you feel valued? And then we want to have an open-ended question that shares what are the actions and behaviors that have you feel most valued, and what are the actions and behaviors that have you not feel valued, and then do a data analysis of the responses. And by the way, pro tip, ask the question, what has you feel valued and what doesn't have you feel valued at work? Then take all the open-ended responses to those questions, put it into ChatGPT and say, create a resource for our managers based on the results in this of what matters and what doesn't matter, and give 5 or 6 recommendations on each. You'll have a manager toolkit that you can share back, do a little formatting with it, put it into PowerPoint, put it into Canva or something, and you're going to have an outcome that nobody would believe that you could put together, that you can give out, that is also a result of your survey. Win-win. And here's one caveat that I want to point out, is that many times we put the same weight on every single response on our survey. But in your such organization, I'm guessing that there's certain employees that are highly engaged that you want more of those people and less of those people who suck the life out of your organization. So when you're looking at your survey results, if you can kind of pull out, here are some of our top people and here are some of the people that, well, we don't know if they're going to be here in a year. You don't want to put as much weight on their survey results as you do these people that you know are great. And there's another tip too. When you're doing your survey, maybe be selective of who takes it. And I'm not saying for your overall engagement surveys, but if you do have some control over it, maybe pick, actually this year or this month, I just want to survey these top 10 people in each department here to get their experience, because we want more employees like them. And if you do have everybody in the survey, think about putting different numerical values on their surveys so that when you're calculating the results, there's a higher value on those. And I'm not a statistician, so use your friends who do that to be able to help you figure out ways to be able to do that. In the end, the most important things that we need to do is, 1, acknowledge that we received it and thank people for their participation. And then most importantly, show them what we're going to do with the results. If you see a quick win because there's a small change that you can make within your organization, then make that small change. Get a senior leader to go out and start talking to people in those departments that are most frustrated, to be able to listen to their feedback, and then try to change that one thing that they're frustrated about. And if you can start to address those little things, right, look for your low-hanging fruit and your quick wins of the things you can do. And if you start making those quick wins and people see you make those as soon after to doing the engagement survey as you possibly can, guess what? They're more likely to fill out those things honestly and openly in the future, and it's going to make the biggest difference for the engagement of your employees in your organization. I'm Chris Littlefield, and I hope you found this video helpful. And if you want help running an engagement survey in your organization, or analyzing your results, or just training your leaders to have the conversations that move those numbers up in the future, and by the way, I've been brought in several times right before the engagement survey to try to move numbers up on specific things, well, then reach out to me at beyondthankyou.com.